Before tanks, before guns, one animal gave humans the power to move faster than fear and strike before enemies could react. It never chose war. It never understood empires. Yet no force in history reshaped warfare more completely than the horse. For most of human history, war moved at the speed of marching feet. Armies were slow, battles were predictable, distance itself was a weapon. Campaigns took months just to reach the battlefield. Soldiers arrived exhausted. Supply lines stretched thin. Retreat was often impossible, not because the enemy blocked the way, but because the road home was too long. War followed rules written by geography. Then humans climbed onto the back of a horse, and warfare stopped obeying them. Around 3500 BCE, on the vast Eurasian steppe, humans first domesticated horses. They weren't weapons at first, they were companions, tools for survival. Horses pulled carts, guarded herds, and carried people across open grasslands where walking meant death. Over generations, humans learned how to calm them, guide them, and depend on them. Genetic evidence suggests early steppe horses were selected not for size, but for temperament and endurance. Stronger backs, calmer behaviour, animals willing to accept human control. What began as cooperation slowly became transformation. Because once humans learned to fight from horseback, the battlefield would never be the same again. A mounted warrior could travel farther in a single day than a marching army could manage in 3. That difference changed everything. Horsemen could strike without warning, and disappear before retaliation was possible. For the first time in history, speed itself became a weapon. Infantry armies weren't suddenly weak, they were suddenly vulnerable. An enemy that could not be caught could not be defeated. An enemy that chose when to fight controlled the outcome before the battle even began. Distance, once a shield, became a liability. Nowhere was this transformation more complete than on the Eurasian steppe. This land produced a very specific kind of horse and a very specific kind of warrior. These were not the massive war horses of medieval legend. They were smaller, tougher, relentless. They survived brutal winters, scarce grazing, and endless travel. Conditions that would break most animals. Humans adapted their warfare to match the horse, not the other way around. By rotating mounts, warriors could ride for days without slowing down. A single fighter might bring 5 or more horses on campaign, switching mounts as each tired. Armies no longer moved in lines, they flowed, across plains, across borders, across entire continents. Enemies rarely saw them coming, only the dust and the fear. But speed alone didn't make mounted warriors unstoppable. What came next turned mobility into devastation. The next evolution wasn't just moving faster, it was fighting from the horse. Mounted warriors learned to shoot arrows, throw javelins, and strike with blades while riding at full speed, something foot soldiers had never faced before. A charging horseman was not just a fighter, he was momentum. Enemies couldn't respond in time. By the moment shields were raised and formations turned, the horsemen were already gone, circling, regrouping, striking again. Battles were no longer decided by strength alone. They were decided by confusion, exhaustion, and fear. Mounted armies learned to exploit this chaos. They encircled slower forces. They cut supply lines. They attacked from every direction. There was nowhere to hide. The horse erased the concept of safety on the battlefield. Armies that could not keep up simply dissolved. Entire forces vanished, not always in dramatic clashes, but through starvation, pursuit, and constant harassment. Cities surrendered without fighting. terrified by what mounted armies had done elsewhere. Reputation itself became a weapon. Often the horse won the battle before it ever arrived. Every civilization that faced mounted warfare was forced to adapt or fall behind. Armour grew heavier, weapons changed, formations evolved, chariots gave way to cavalry, infantry reorganised to defend against fast-moving threats, fortifications expanded beyond walls into controlled territory. From this moment forward, no empire could rise without the horse, and its influence was only beginning. As mounted warfare spread, armies stopped improvising. They institutionalized the horse. In ancient Persia, cavalry became central to imperial control. In China, dynasties fought endless wars over horse access. In the Islamic world, mounted armies carried conquest across continents. In medieval Europe, cavalry became the elite. Knights dominated battlefields, not because they were braver, but because horses made them unstoppable. A mounted, armoured warrior combined speed, shock, and protection in a way infantry could rarely counter. The horse didn't just change war, it reshaped society. Horses created new power structures. Only elites could afford them, only trained warriors could master them. Land, wealth, and status reorganised around mounted service. Feudalism, nobility, and military hierarchy were built on horseback. Control of horses meant control of territory. Empires expanded faster. Borders hardened. Communication improved. Messages that once took weeks now travelled in days. Distance, once an obstacle, became an advantage for those who could move fastest. Even as weapons evolved, military thinking stayed rooted in mounted warfare, speed, shock, mobility. When machines replaced horses, they copied the same principles. Cavalry charges became tank assaults. Mounted raids became mechanized blitzkrieg. Rapid deployment replaced slow mobilization. Modern warfare still follows rules written in hoofprints. The horse is gone from the front lines, but its logic remains. Yet behind every conquest was a truth history rarely centres. Millions of horses served. Millions suffered. They carried armour, supplies, weapons, and wounded soldiers. They charged into fire they could not understand. They endured exhaustion, hunger, and terror. None ever chose to fight. They carried humanity through its most violent ambitions and paid the price in silence. The horse didn't invent war, but it transformed it. It turned movement into power, speed into dominance, distance into opportunity. Every modern military strategy, rapid deployment, armoured shock, mobile warfare, traces its roots back to the horse. Before engines, before steel, there was the horse. And once humans learned to fight from the saddle, the world would never move the same way again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more true stories of the remarkable animals that helped shape human history, please share and hit the like, subscribe and alert bell to show your support.